a slow-paced and simplistic reimagining of the first phase in Spore. Feesh is a basic game produced originally for a 48-hour game-making competition, but then later fully released as a completed game. The concept is very simple. You are a Feesh, you need to eat smaller Feesh to get bigger, and avoid bigger Feesh to preserve your existence. As I already mentioned, it is definitely a callback to Spore, and possibly games before that, except the sole focus here is on the first era. The gameplay works pretty much as you would expect. There isn't a great deal that can go wrong. Once you've decided which control setup works best for you, it's fairly plain sailing. My only complaint about this would be that due to the nature of the different shapes of the Feesh, it can sometimes be difficult to judge whether you are bigger or not. This is most noticeable when you are the Vortex Feesh, as the size is much more difficult to gauge when comparing to things like sharks, and it basically becomes a rule that if you're not sure, get the hell out of there. There isn't really a great deal to keep you playing as the game sets no goals. The only real things to aim for are the achievements and the leaderboard scores. I found the most enjoyment from trying to get the achievements, as they are challenging but not ridiculous, aside from a couple which just seem to be down to random chance rather than anything else. The leaderboards unfortunately seem to have been topped by a cheater. This is an assumption based on the fact that his score is 440 times bigger than second place. And because the game doesn't really have any progression in terms of difficulty, getting a high score basically comes down to how long you have to play the game. There is quite a large selection of creeps and critters littering the small pocket that you have to fight it out in, giving the game quite a lot of diversity. You get the fairly obvious shark-style creatures which will hunt you down to the ends of the earth even if you are bigger than they are, and some which even require different approaches like the electric jellyfish or the pack of blue blobs protecting the small yellow one. But a clear favourite has to be the dubstep Feesh, which flashes manically and as you get closer emanates irritating noises, making it all the more satisfying to consume. You do get to play as almost all of the different Feesh, as once you reach a certain size you evolve into one of them, several of which have different mechanics making them more interesting to play, such as a dash, or a vortex to absorb the ocean into one hideous blob. It is slightly disappointing that not all of them have different mechanics, but even the shape of the creature can be enough to change the style of the gameplay. It does also have a couple of other game modes in the form of a chill out mode, which is essentially just a screensaver, or the far more frustrating shark attack mode where you are mercilessly hunted and killed repeatedly unless you're fortunate enough to get the required size to benefit from all the murdering sharks heading straight for you. There are a few little gripes, such as the control scheme isn't remembered after you quit the level, so if you intend to play another one you better remember to change it again. And it would have been really nice to have a restart button, as you can have a very unfortunate start with something flying off the edge of the screen and annihilating you instantly. Currently you have to quit the level, wait for the menu to load, then change the control scheme, choose the game mode again, wait for it to load again. It's just unnecessary time wasting. The soundtrack also suits the game well, and despite it being quite repetitive it's easy enough to listen to. That being said, after about 4 hours I did start listening to my own music. It is quite clearly recognised as a budget title, with a tiny price tag of 79p, which is undoubtedly worth. It's incredibly easy to play and just zone out completely. Sure, there are moments where it can be frustrating, but for the most part you just float around endlessly. By no means is it a perfect game, or one that you'll be investing vast amounts of time into, but as a game that you can just boot up for anything from seconds to hours just to pass the time, it's flawless. I'll definitely be keeping it on my computer just in case I need something a little more calming. It's the good part from Spore without the horrific DRM. What more could you want?